Okay, here we are. We are in the book of Genesis, and this ends a little bit of a season for us in Genesis in that we're going to be looking at the death of Abraham's wife. Things come in seasons, and this is the season where Abraham loses his wife Sarah, the woman he's walked with for so long. Well, things come in seasons, right? And the season for us maybe using this format, which we've been saying for a while, we're going to change. And that's because we said we were doing our outside services in Uncasville for July and August. And then we did them in all of September. And then we did them in all of October. So we're thinking that November 1st, we're going to be inside on Sunday mornings in November. I think it's the 7th or the 8th. We'll be inside on Saturday nights. So we'll see what happens and see what happens with the format. So, we said from the beginning, coronavirus one day at a time, we're making it through, we're growing. We're doing great through the book of Genesis. I mean, this has been a blast. So let's read this chapter together and then we'll see what we can get out of it together. Genesis chapter 23. And it says Sarah lived to be 127 years old. Now that's pretty old. And in the scripture, an awful lot of the ancients lived to be relatively old, but that's old. And she died in Hebron, which is called Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went to mourn for her and to weep over her. So two words, we'll come back to those words later. But it seems like Abraham was not there at the moment of her death because it seems to indicate that he came and he went to her. So she probably didn't die from a long illness. It must have been something suddenly. And there he shows up to uh, find out about his wife's death and he mourns for her and weeps for her. Abraham rose from beside his dead wife and spoke to the Hittites. Well, he's living among the Hittites right now. And here's what he says to them: I'm an alien and a stranger among you. Sell me some property for a burial site so I can bury my dead here. And the Hittites replied to Abraham, Sir, listen to us. You're a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will refuse you a tomb for burying your dead. Just go ahead. Just go ahead. Take one of the tombs here. Well, Abraham, he doesn't like to do things like that. That's not how he does business. That's not how he does life. He doesn't take things. He's a giver, not a taker. Well, Abraham rose and he bowed down before the people of the land, the Hittites, and he said to them, Look, if you're willing to let me bury my dead, then listen to me and intercede with Ephraim, the son of Zohar, on my behalf, so that he will sell to me the cave that belongs to him at the end of his field. Ask him to sell it to me for the full price of a burial site among you. So he wants to buy it. Some people say what's going on here is the way the ancient Middle East negotiations would go anyway. That although they all said, "Oh, take a tomb," none of them thought that Abraham would take them up on that. That if he said, "Oh, thanks for the tomb, thanks for the property," we, oh, wait a minute. That the polite thing to do would be to say, "Oh, just go ahead, take it." And Abraham's, "No, I won't take it. I want to buy it." So verse 10, so Ephraim the Hittite was sitting among the people, and he replied to Abraham in the hearing of all of the Hittites who had come to the gate of the city. Now, in the ancient world, the gate of the city is where the elders would gather, and you'd go there if you wanted some advice on business, wanted some marriage advice, some advice in life. The elders would be there. It also was a place where a lot of business was done, a lot of business transactions were done, and where the witnessing of business transactions would be done. So this was a great place to do it. And Abraham's going to do it with, um, a contract sort of speak a contract in that it's going to be seen, it's going to be visible, and then he's going to sign something apparently. So verse 11, no, my Lord, he said, listen to me. I'll give you the field. I'll give you the cave that's in it. I give it to you in the presence of my, but just bury your dead. So Abraham, verse 12, he bows down before the people. And he said to Ephraim in their hearing, listen to me, if you will. I'll pay the price of the field. Accept it to me so I can bury my dead there. And Ephraim answered Abraham, okay, all right. Listen to me, my Lord. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver, which is probably where he wanted to get anyway. But what's that between you and me? 400 shekels of silver. Right? You want to pay it? I'll take I'll take the shekels of silver. Bury your dead. So Abraham agreed to Ephraim's terms, and he weighed out for him the price that had been named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver, according to the weight current among the merchants. So Ephraim's field near Mamre, the field and the cave in it, and the trees within the borders were deeded to him in the presence of all of the leaders there, the elders there. So it seems like it's a nice location, and maybe Abraham has had his eye on it for a while. Uh, he knew immediately the property that he wanted, and so there it is in the field. And at the end of the field, there's a cave, and there's trees there. So it's a lovely setting and a great setting for the tomb for his wife. So they gave it to Abraham, the property in his presence of the Hittites and all that come to the gate of the city. Afterwards, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave, in the field near Mamre, which is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And so the field and the cave in it were deeded to Abraham as a burial site. So we're not going to talk a whole lot about the burial site. We're going to talk about Sarah and talk about her life and really do kind of a memorial service for her. You could call this chapter "Till Death Do Us Part." The phrase that we're going to use throughout is "they stuck together." They stuck together, Abraham and Sarah. They stuck together. These guys had been in it for a long time together. And in their life, there's lots of practical applications, but they stayed married till the end. It's an amazing story, really, quite the accomplishment with what Sarah had to work with, Abraham. And she sticks with him all the way to the end. This guy, this joker, unbelievable. She sticks with him. There are thousands of sermons about Abraham, and I've heard quite a few, but maybe you've heard quite a few. But I've never seen or heard a study that was given exclusively to Sarah. So here we go. We are going to just look at the life of Sarah and do her memorial service, if you will. That should be an interesting service. Let's talk about her life. So right now, here's where we are. Sarah, the mother of nations, dies, and she's going to be buried in a cave. So she's not only the mother of a nation, but she's the mother of nations, plural, that each of her sons became the fathers, the grandfathers, the patriarchs of nations. And of course, Isaac, her boy, he was going to be the father of the Jewish people, the Hebrew people, and it would be through his line that the Messiah would be born. But her other son, Ishmael, he becomes the father, the patriarch of the Arab people. And so she really is the first woman whose story plays into the spiritual development of all of humanity. And we get to read her story in depth, actually. There's more information about her life in the book of Genesis than there is given to the creation of the world. There's a lot of information about Sarah. And there's also some information about her in the New Testament. And what we know, and we'll be saying this throughout, is they stuck together. They stuck together. And in sticking together, we have to face the reality that for Sarah, hers was a difficult journey. Hers was a difficult journey. It wasn't easy to live in the ancient world to begin with, and it certainly wasn't easy to be a woman in the ancient world. And it's safe to say that her life really was one continuous trial. Abraham and Sarah went through a lot, but they went through it together. They went through it together. And eventually they discovered, because it takes a while to discover sometimes, eventually discovered that God was working in their lives, and they found spiritual significance even in the difficulties. That's how you know you're growing. You find spiritual significance even in the difficulties. I've been finding a lot of spiritual significance in this COVID and everything that's going on and how everybody feels about it, and all the divisions in our land, the social unrest, the economic uncertainty, the death of truth. What is true? What are we supposed to believe? Which one do we believe today? And then what you believe today changes tomorrow. But you find in the midst of all of that that God is there and God doesn't change. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And and she shared these difficulties. Uh, she shared these unknown dangers with her husband, but they did it together. They did it together. They went through a famine together, and then they experienced great wealth and prosperity together. Isn't that amazing? To go from a famine and then great wealth and great prosperity. It's what the traditional vows say. Uh, I take you from this day forward for richer, for poorer, for better, or for worse. And if I've married you, you've probably heard me say that, for better or for worse. Nobody can guarantee you that it will get better. How can anybody make that proclamation? How can anybody make that prediction that things will get better for you? But what I tell people when they're getting married to think it through, because we'd be like Abraham and Sarah, where they went through a lot of difficulties together, for better or for worse. I said, no, nobody can tell you it's going to get better, but I promise you, I guarantee you it will get worse. It's going to get worse. And you're going to have difficulties. You're going to have things you need to work through. But neither the riches nor the famine, the richer for poorer, the better for worse, neither one divided them. Neither one divided them. There's a great story that I love to tell. It's about this guy, Robertson McQuilkin. That's the cover of a book that he wrote called A Promise Kept. I think probably his editors chose the title, but Robertson McQuilkin was an interesting guy. He was a university president, Christian university, and he had a lot of missionaries that were overseas that wanted to earn degrees but couldn't be there in the classroom. Now, this is going back into the 60s. And in the 60s, there was no such thing as distance education. Now we do online learning, and all the kids are doing online learning now. Well, there was a day that distance learning was frowned upon. The universities would not accept it. They thought the only way that you could get a legitimate education was to be in a classroom with a professor and a blackboard and students listening to you talk and then going home and reading their textbook and taking a test. And there was no other way to do it. You had to come into the classroom. Well, Robertson McQuilkin thought that that wasn't true, that his students, particularly his missionaries that were in other countries, that they could get a good education distanced from the physical university. Well, the accrediting agencies, the accrediting boards didn't believe it, but he talked him into getting some students where he would work with them, and if they passed, they would give him a degree, just as a test. Well, he's really the father of distance learning. He's really the father of online education, really. I mean, he was the first one to take it out of the physical classroom and be able to do it somewhere else. So he's working on it his whole life, working with the accrediting boards. And when he's really ready to make this happen, his wife comes down with this disease where she doesn't know who she doesn't know who he is. So he immediately quits his job as a university president and takes care of his wife. Now, the book tells the story about him and his wife and the journey that he went through with her. But I read an interview with him, and they asked him, was that a difficult decision for you to quit this pursuit of distance education, you being the father of distance education, leaving your university job to care for a woman who doesn't even know who you are? Was that a difficult decision? And he said there was no decision to make. He said, 40 years ago, when I stood at the altar and I said to her, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, for better, for worse, I made a vow to her. And now that vow is due. So they stuck together. Robertson McQuilkin and his wife stuck together. Abraham and Sarah stuck together. They stuck through it together. They stuck through it, and they never divided. They stuck together. That's the theme for today, is that they stuck together. So let's move on a little bit. There she is. Well, what it says in First Peter in the New Testament about Abraham and Sarah's marriage, that she was a partner and heirs with you with the gracious gift of life, that your wife, your husband, your partners. And so we're doing her memorial service. We're talking about her life. We're celebrating her life, the life of Sarah. Amazing, amazing life that she lived. And here's what we know about her life is that when she started her new journey with Abraham, they were both old. What was her new journey? Her new journey was they were both old, and God interrupts their life and tells them that they are going to have a child and that that child's going to bless the whole world. Well, they're beyond childbearing age. She is. So, how's this going to happen? When when all of this starts, living in one place and God tells them to leave there. And so they left that place. They left the only place they had ever known as home. And they left it to follow God. They don't really know where they're going, but the adventure begins right then. They're on an adventure together, following God together, not knowing what's going on with their life, just that they've got some promises from God. It was a strange journey for sure. It was a really strange journey for sure, but they stuck together. They stuck together. And here's the big important part of this story is that she was unable to have children. Sarai, her name later gets changed to Sarah, Sarai was barren and she had no children. They lived together in those tents, but they had no children. And it seems as though it's not that Abraham couldn't have kids because he did have a kid. He had a kid with the girl that worked in the house, the young girl, the young housekeeper, the young assistant, whatever her position was in the house. It wasn't bad timing. It wasn't that they had difficulty conceiving. Romans 4 says that her womb was dead. She's beyond childbearing age. It's not going to happen. And so, for many reasons, including having an heir, children were important in the ancient world. Children were important to help you just labor, but Abraham was rich, so he hired all kinds of people. He didn't need kids to help him with daily life. He had a lot of employees as such. We would call them employees, but they were people in his household. Sarah didn't have children, nor could she. Uh, we don't know how old they were when they were married, but we do know that they were older when they set out in their new life with God. They're older. That should be encouraging to all of us. Even if you're young, that should be encouraging that you can begin this walk with God at any time. At any time. You do it when you're 7, you can do it when you're 10, you do 13, 20, 28, 35, 50, 55, 60, 70, 80. Do it at any time. Start your walk with God, and it becomes an adventure. And so for them, it wasn't that they were sticking together because of the kids. They didn't have any kids. You've heard, oh, we're just sticking together for the kids. Well, they didn't have any kids, but they stuck together. They had a strong relationship. And even though they didn't have kids, even though they didn't have, other reasons maybe to stick together, they stuck together. They stuck together. And she becomes, part of Abraham's family. They become a family together. Become a family together. And everywhere that he went, she went. They traveled everywhere together. They traveled on this road together. In their travels, Abraham didn't always stick up for her, though, but God did. But something happens when you travel with someone over a long period of time, over many years. if if I'm married to you, might have heard this story. I tell it to a lot of people about sticking together and traveling this road together and through the ups and the downs, richer for poorer and sickness and in health for better or for worse. And I tell this story about being in Home Depot and I'm walking down the aisle in Home Depot. I don't know what I was doing, looking for, I don't know, tape. I don't know what I was looking for that day, but I'm in Home Depot. I'm walking down the aisle and coming at me is this couple and they were both perfectly round, round head, big round bodies, big round head, big round bodies. They're dressed in the same t-shirt and have these funky shorts on. The shorts aren't the same, but they both have shorts on, and they're both kind of funky shorts with the same t-shirt. And they're holding hands. So here comes the round couple in the same t-shirts holding hands in Home Depot. And my thought was, I've never seen anything so beautiful in my life. Like, I wanted to know, like, how do you get to that place? How do you get to that place where you're just like, you're just so enjoying each other? You look alike. You've been together so long, like you look alike. You're dressing alike. You don't even have your own taste anymore, seemingly, or you like the same things, whatever it is, however you get that way. And you're walking down Home Depot holding hands in love, doing what? Looking for a doorknob? How does that happen? How do you get like that? How do you get like that? Man, just beautiful. Just a beautiful, beautiful relationship. And Abraham and Sarah, they went everywhere together. They went everywhere together. But Abraham wasn't always good to her. It's just reality. He wasn't always good to her. He didn't always stand up for her. He let her be taken by these kings a couple of times, and man, just same thing happened to the Apostle Paul. Uh, the Apostle Paul said, "At my first offense, no one came to my support, but everyone deserted me." And so poor Sarah, at some points in her life, she didn't only feel like Abraham deserted her; he did. She put up with a lot. And Paul said, "May it not be held against them." Sarah, she came to that same place somehow. He said, "But the Lord stood by my side and gave me strength, and so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed and the Gentiles might hear it." But nobody standing by my side, and Sarah being at this place of, just loneliness where her own husband's not even standing up for her. There are seasons in the story of Abraham where she's not mentioned at all, only Abraham. And sometimes in a marriage, one partner feels like that they're all alone in this. You don't they don't feel like that couple in Home Depot holding hands, looking for doorknobs. Life doesn't get any better than that. If you got that, you got everything. You've got everything. But things turn around. They turned around for Abraham and Sarah. Uh, Marital satisfaction. You should know this. People that study marriages. Marriages is sometimes people just are not happy in their marriages. Particular seasons. For many couples, not for all couples, but for many couples, like the real bottom time is like when they have kids that are in junior high school, in middle school, and turning into the teen years. Other people, they just love that season, but sometimes marital satisfaction isn't so high. But what they've discovered with couples is that couples that stick together for 40 years have more marital satisfaction at the end of 40 years than they did even at the beginning. Amazing. Amazing what happens when you stick together, when you get round in the same t-shirt, and they stuck together. They stuck together, but it wasn't easy for Sarah at all. She had a place in God's plan, uh, and she's commended as a wife in the New Testament. Uh, but she had it tough. She had it tough. Sometimes for her, life was an emotional roller coaster. She had the incident with Hagar, which was a years long incident. With the young girl that lived in the house, and uh, she had this long incident. With Hagar. The young girl living in the house, the traveling and the moving around. Had to put her on a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. The uncertainty of what was going on. Abraham not sticking up for her, yet they stuck together. they stuck together, and she did have a place in God's plan. Uh, Sarah has a place in God's plan. God is using her. And so when the story is told about how God brings forth this miraculous child and started the nation in the family tree of Jesus, it seems like it's always focusing on Abraham. But there could be no such family tree or prophesied Messiah if it wasn't for Sarah. Uh, we learned from reading the account that not just any woman would do. It had to be Sarah. It had to be Sarah. Nobody, nobody could play her part, and nobody can play your part. And so again, she's commended in the New Testament. She's commended as a great wife in the New Testament. Man, she was a great wife. Abraham was not always the greatest husband, but she was an amazing, amazing wife. And it's really fair to say that if Abraham was the father of Israel, and that those who had faith, he's the father of those who had faith and the father of Israel, then Sarah's the mother. Look to Abraham your father and to Sarah who gave you birth, is what Isaiah says. Let's not leave her out of this. And then Abraham weeps for his wife. Abraham loved his wife. Loved his wife. It said in those earlier verses that he did two things. He mourned and he wept for her. In mourning, that word there, it's a strong word. These ancient languages have many more words than us to describe things. And there, that word mourning means like to tear your hair. I might tear my hair. I've been saying I'm going to let it grow until Corona's over, but I need prayer to to go the distance with that one. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But it means to tear your hair, to beat your breast, to lament, to wail, oh, and to weep, to bemoan, to complain, a lamentation, with tears. He was sad because throughout their life they had stuck together. They stuck together. And we grieve, and we should be aware that we grieve. Death that's a tough one. But here's how we grieve. That's what Paul says in the New Testament. We don't want you to be ignorant about those who fall asleep, but to grieve like the rest of people who have no hope. We believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who've fallen asleep with him. According to the Lord's own word, we tell you that we who are still alive and who are left until the coming of the Lord will certainly not precede those who've fallen asleep. But the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, with the trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. After that, we who are still alive and who left will be caught together in the air with him. I really want to have that experience. And so I'll be with the Lord forever. I'll be with the Lord forever. This is a tough time, though. It's a tough season. Isaac's bummed out about the death of his mom. Him and his mom were close. Him and his mom were close. He brought a lot of laughter into her life, a lot of joy. This is going to happen in another 2 chapters when we get there, when Isaac gets married here. But it says Isaac brought her, being his new wife, into the tent of his mother Sarah, brings her into Sarah's tent, his mom, and he married Rebekah. And so she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. That's something that he was mourning all that time. He was feeling a big hole, a big gap in his life when he lost his mom. She enjoyed him, he enjoyed her. Sarah, her life was a difficult one, and although she had this promise of all of these grandchildren, she didn't get to see the grandchildren. She didn't get to see him. She saw Isaac, though. She definitely saw Isaac. She saw the child of promise, but she never got to see Isaac moving the family tree towards a family that was so large that nobody would be able to count them, to a family that would be so large that they would be like the stars in the sky or the sand in the sea. There would just be so many of them. And so her life ends on a great note. All the trouble, all the suffering, all the difficulty, but they stuck together. She did have the promises of God fulfilled in her life. Finally happened. Finally all came together. She weathered every storm. They stuck together through all of it. And we're reading about her and memorializing her today. It probably didn't seem day to day there was anything worth memorializing, until you see the whole picture, until you see the whole life, to see how God brings it all together. Through her family tree came the Messiah, Jesus. God rewards her in every way. And, there are some conclusions from this that she was an old lady. She lived old. My wife's parents, and at least her mom and their grandparents, they lived old. They were old people. Lived old. Sarah was old, but even the longest life eventually comes to an end. Sin, rebelling against God, has dealt these bodies a pretty heavy blow. We're all going to die, sometime or another, no matter how long we live. Or we can conclude that every difficult, troubled life has a peaceful ending with rewards yet to come. If we're in Christ, that's the way it is. Jesus said, in this world you have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. Life is difficult. Jesus was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. But boy, there's rewards to come, and there's rewards to experience in life. Those of us in Christ, what we have to look forward to is being reunited with Jesus. And you want to bring as many people as you can with you. Just tell them about Jesus so they can become the inheritors of eternal life, so they too can live with Jesus forever. Anybody who believes in him, they're given the gift of eternal life, living forever. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believed in him wouldn't perish, but would have eternal life. God giving us eternal life. So, Lord Jesus, thank you so much that you do give eternal life. And thank you so much, Lord, that you give life. To look at Sarah's life and look at all the difficulties, all the trouble, all the betrayal. But Lord, it turns out to be just a great life and a great story to hear at the end. A great memorial service. Sarah. And so, Lord, might we be conscious every day that our life is in your hands and that we belong to you, and that you'll lead our path, and then you let us meet people in our lives and share our lives with others. But Lord, we especially look forward to for the day that you will make everything right, that all things will be restored. We're looking forward to that, Lord. We love you and we worship you. And so listen, may the Lord bless you, and may the Lord keep you, and may the Lord make his face shine upon you, and may he give you peace. May you really see the Lord in every part of your life, every day of your life. May you see what he's doing, and that he's piecing together a great picture, a great mosaic. And sometimes, you don't see what's going on. Sometimes you don't understand what's going on, but God is working. And we sang that song through the pandemic, Waymaker. Even though I don't see you, you're working. You're a waymaker, the miracle worker, always making a way for us. So I love meeting with you guys, even like this. It's just I like it. I think of some of you, when I'm doing this, I see your faces, and you know, don't imagine I am talking to you. And I'm glad that I'm glad we can be together. I'm glad we can journey through the scriptures together. I'm glad that we can learn the lessons. I'm glad that we can see life. I'm glad that God's doing something. That God's doing something. He has a great future for us. He has a great future for this church. God's doing stuff, and he's raising people up, and people are doing new things for Jesus, and inviting friends to Jesus. Just amazing things are going on. So if you come to one of the in-person services, or stay online, or start to bring some friends online with you, meet in a home somewhere, or meet somewhere else, meet in a public place, meet in the community room in your condo, or whatever. Get a few people together, and every weekend gather around, and watch the study, watch the worship, and share life with each other. So love you guys. God's doing great things. We'll see you soon. Here, there, or in the air. Bless you. Love you guys.